Hey, Beth. What is that? Somebody hit the World Trade Center or the...
It's a trade center.
The World Trade Center.
Washington, there is a large fire at the Pentagon. The Pentagon has been evacuated.
As close as we can get to the base of the World Trade Center. You can see the
perhaps
firemen assembled here, the police officers
front
effing
tower. The top portion of the chaos collapsed.
But they have failed. Good work. Our country is strong.
What are those people going to do?
Has been made to defend.
So Bush did a lot of controversial things after 9/11 that have made his presidency super unpopular now. But what would you do after 9/11? What's your foreign policy regarding the terrorists? Changes to domestic policy? What do you do?
60 on page 153.
This was the moment when the President of the United States, George W. Bush, found out that his country was under attack. George Bush sat in a Florida classroom, the faint chatter of children masking the storm brewing outside. An aide approached, leaned in, and whispered words that drained the color from his face. America is under attack. 9/11, a date etched into history. But is everything we know about that day really the truth? What if the story we've been told isn't the full story? What if the real story behind 9/11 is something far darker, much more complex than anyone dares admit? What we're about to uncover could change everything.
Oh my God.
Brace yourself as we go through the mind-blowing events of 9/11, unveiling hidden backstories, mind-bending speculations, and jaw-dropping theories that will make you question everything you thought you knew. A fateful morning, the countdown to chaos. It was the day that changed everything for the world, the morning of September 11th. It began as a normal morning in America, but at 8:46 a.m. the first plane struck the North Tower. By 9:03 the South Tower was hit, and then the world stopped. 19 terrorists hijacked 4 planes, crashing 2 into the Twin Towers of the World Trade Center in New York, 1 into the Pentagon, and the 4th in a field in Pennsylvania after passengers fought back. In New York, chaos erupted as the towers collapsed, sending debris and smoke through the streets. People ran to escape for their lives while others rushed to help. The Pentagon was struck in Washington, D.C., and fear spread across the nation, with many wondering if more attacks were coming. That day changed the world forever, marking a turning point in history. The backstory. What was really brewing under the covers?
Possible news that 737 just hit the World Trade Center. This is real world.
Was 9/11 just a tragic coincidence, or had the world been preparing for this day for years? The roots of 9/11 trace back to the Cold War, a time when power was negotiated in shadows and alliances were forged out of necessity, not ideology. The US supported the Afghan Mujahideen during the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan in the 1980s, but these alliances laid the groundwork for the rise of groups like Al-Qaeda, Osama bin Laden, and Al-Qaeda.
The US government has committed acts that are extremely unjust, hideous, and criminal through its support of the Israeli occupation of Palestine. And we believe the US is directly responsible for those killed in Palestine, Lebanon, and Iraq.
Osama bin Laden, once a US ally in the fight against the Soviets, dramatically shifted his allegiance, seeing the West as a growing threat to the Islamic world. From this vision, Al-Qaeda was born, intended as a transnational jihadist movement. This led to the formation of Al-Qaeda in the late 1980s, and its mission was to expel Western influence from the Middle East. Al-Qaeda was being viewed as the main militant group behind many terrorist and anti-Western intentions. Osama became the man who was wanted by the US Army after the attacks. The payback time for Osama was not so far.
I want him hell. I want justice.
President George W. Bush said, "I want him in hell. I want justice." A very contradictory statement to President Bush's stance was given by Hillary Clinton.
The people we are fighting today, we funded.
The US response, the beginning of the war on terror. While one side was constructing a network of terror, the other was occupied with remaining silent until the inevitable confrontation. While Al-Qaeda began to expand its reach, the US was focused on other international priorities.
1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000.
When the 9/11 attack struck, it led to an urgency for countering terrorist activities and organizations, and now was the time for action against the latter groups and organizations.
Reference whiskey, they're going direct Washington. 5, they're going direct Washington.
But there is another side to it, which you can find out later in the video, so stay tuned for the unbelievable revelation. Tower collapse, a freak accident or something more sinister?
Oh my God.
Now let's talk about the collapse itself. We've all seen the footage. Planes hit the towers, and they came down. But what if the official story doesn't tell the whole truth? There's something more sinister at play here.
We've seen it from the front angle before, but not from this angle.
Could the towers have been designed to collapse in a certain way? Don't forget to find out later in the video. Engineers and experts are still debating it. Was it just the impact of the planes? Or was there something else that led to the fateful incident leading to the loss of innocent lives?
It just I had 40 people in there, just an explosion. There's a light flash out my window. My whole doorway to entrance to my office blew open. My office was freaking out, and I just told them to calm down and get to the center of the office. Everybody was fine on my floor, and we just started heading down the stairs. I heard people were trapped in the bathroom. I ran to the bathroom. It was just blown out. I asked if anybody was in there. People weren't in there. So I started going down the steps. I heard people shouting. I stopped at like 68, and there's a woman in a wheelchair. And
Somebody's stabbed in business class, and I think there's mates that we can't breathe. I don't know. I think we're getting hijacked.
Flight 93. The passengers are remembered as heroes fighting back against hijackers, but there's more to their story. What if their heroic sacrifice was manipulated? Some say the plane was going down no matter what. There are many speculations behind whether the actions of people were a setup, and we can never know what was going on board on Flight 93, heroic sacrifice, or something else. Do you believe the passengers were truly in control, or is there more to this story? The truth they don't want you to know.
Our fellow citizens, our way of life, our very freedom came under attack in a series of deliberate and deadly terrorist acts. The victims were in airplanes, or in their offices, secretaries, businessmen and women, military and federal workers, moms and dads, friends and neighbors. Thousands of lives were suddenly ended by evil, despicable acts of terror.
Here it is, the final revelation. We've all heard the official story, but what if the information we've received is only a small portion of the truth? There's something huge they don't want you to know, a truth so explosive it could change everything we've been told about 9/11. The pieces of the puzzle have been scattered, but we're about to put them together. Stay tuned. The most shocking theory, the inside job. You've heard it whispered in dark corners of the internet, but what if the US government knew about the attacks in advance? Maybe they even helped set the stage for what happened.
No, we have several situations going on here. It's escalating big time. And we need to get the military involved with this.
Well, what's going on?
Just get me somebody who has the authority to get military in the air now.
All right.
Think about it. The Twin Towers came down in a way that raised more questions than answers. The collapse was nearly symmetrical. The speed was almost too perfect if we talk about it. Is the real story what we think? The very people who ended up as the enemies behind Al-Qaeda were at one time backed by the US. In the 1980s, during the Soviet-Afghan War, the US played a role in helping the very groups that would later turn against them. Al-Qaeda did not emerge spontaneously. It was nurtured in the shadows, funded by Western interests. Was 9/11 the result of this perilous alliance, a potential backlash that was poised to explode? But here's where it gets even more disturbing. What about the money trail? The money trail, stock market clues that don't add up. Before the towers fell, something strange happened in the stock market. We're talking about unusual trading activity, big spikes in short selling right before 9/11. Was it just luck, or did someone know what was coming? Let's dig into the numbers and see what's really behind the so-called coincidences. While there's no conclusive evidence of coordinated insider trading related to 9/11, several aspects of the stock market's reaction have led to conspiracy theories and questions about market behavior. Another theory revolves around energy stocks, especially oil companies, which might have seen a rise in prices in the aftermath of the attacks too. Certain parties might have profited from the attacks by using short-selling tactics. Some traders and investors were attempting to take advantage of the situation by focusing on the panic that followed the attacks. What do you think? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Do you believe this was a case of insider trading or just an unbelievable coincidence? The Pentagon, missing footage, unanswered questions. Officially, it was American Airlines Flight 77 that crashed into the Pentagon. But if you look closely, the damage doesn't quite add up. The hole in the building doesn't match the size of the plane that supposedly hit it. Some experts even claim the debris field is inconsistent, and the footage is also very suspicious to this date. You'd think with all the cameras around, we'd have every angle of what happened, right? But no, there's hardly any footage, hundreds of cameras, and the only footage we get is a blurry frame that shows just a glimpse of the impact. So, why were so many tapes mysteriously disappeared? What's really going on here? What's your theory on the missing footage? Let's hear your thoughts in the comments. Do you think they're hiding something, or just a coincidence? Who gained from 9/11, the dark side of global change? Of course, we can't ignore the most obvious question. Who really benefited from all this chaos? We've all seen the images of destruction, but behind the scenes, something even darker was unfolding. While the world grieved, some were making massive profits. Oil prices soared, defense contractors raked in billions, and the world shifted in ways most of us couldn't comprehend. This disaster is the perfect cover for shifting global power dynamics. The aftermath, from wars to oil prices, proved to be a lucrative opportunity for a select few. But here's the truly shocking part. What if all of this, every last piece, was part of a much bigger puzzle? A web of deception, manipulation, and control, hidden in plain sight for those brave enough to dig. And if that's true, what else are they hiding? In July 2004, months after Mission Accomplished is declared in Iraq, leaked audio tapes and intelligence from the White House reveal that 9/11 was in fact a false flag attack planned by the US government. The CIA and the White House orchestrated the 9/11 attacks as a justification to invade Iraq and Afghanistan, increase mass surveillance via the Patriot Act, award billions to friendly contractors, and gain control of Iraqi oil. Who would have thought?
When 2 US soldiers die on the eve of those talks, certainly that has an impact on how you move forward, no?
Yes, I think it should have a positive impact.
A positive impact?
Yes, that it is very necessary to put an end to the war.
All these speculations and debates urge us to dive deeper into our consciousness and think about what we believe to be true according to our perspective. Bin Laden's death. US President Barack Obama revealed to the world about bin Laden's execution.
The United States has conducted an operation that killed Osama bin Laden, the leader of Al-Qaeda, and a terrorist who's responsible for the murder of thousands of innocent men, women, and children.
In May 2011, nearly 10 years after the attacks, US Navy SEALs executed Osama bin Laden in Pakistan. His death was seen as a symbolic victory in the war on terror, though the broader issues surrounding terrorism and extremism remained unresolved. Your turn. What do you believe happened on 9/11? That brings to the question, what do you think was resolved after bin Laden's death? Is it all just a game of power dynamics? We've shown you the clues, the questions, and the theories. Now it's your turn. What do you believe happened on 9/11? When it comes to 9/11, the truth is far more complicated than we've been led to believe. Was it an inside job, a cover-up, or just a tragic coincidence? The speculations seem to be endless. Drop your thoughts and theories in the comments below, and let's keep this conversation going. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, because the truth is out there, and we're not stopping until we find it.
Oh my God, another plane has just hit another building. Flew right into the middle of it. Explosion.